Welcome to Friday at 5. This is our weekly get-together where we explore some kind of topic related to teaching and technology. This month, though, is kind of a special topic. We're looking into our Color Vowel pantries, looking at the tools that we have in there, or ingredients, if you want to keep the metaphor going. And so last week we explored Color It Out. The week before that were our Color Vowel image cards. And today, dun, 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 we are looking at the Color Vowel Launchpad and exploring, I said 5 in the promotion, but I actually have 6 fun features that you hopefully will find new, at least one of them. I imagine, you'll say check, 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 but maybe there's going to be 1 or 2 that are new for you. So let's go ahead and get started. Who has the Launchpad? If I could just see a raise of hands. Yeah, okay. So feel free as we move through to add to and enhance my points. Point number 1, this is a pun. This is a pun because it is both a launch pad for getting started and is a pad. It is a pad of pads. So this launch pad has 50 full color double-sided launch pads. And what's great about it is that we can produce them at a price that's much lower than printing in color as one-offs. So it's a nice little economical product. They're ready to go. And it's nice at the beginning of a semester because you can just tear it off, hand it out, and your lesson plan is already made. Because that's the other little piece before I even get to number 1 is that we have a lesson plan built around the launch pad. And right now it's in the form of a video, but one of us will write it up one of these days. I bet Jennifer wants to do that. So, and welcome to Jennifer. She is behind the scenes, but she is keeping notes and, she's always there to support. So we can give a nice thanks to Jennifer. All right.
Thank you, Jennifer.
So, you're welcome, Liz.
Let's chat. And again, I encourage, pitching in. But here we are with my launch pad and everyone's good with, they can see it fairly well. Yeah. Great. Wonderful. So I've already started, with my lesson, just starting off as a student, that there's a place at the top to enter some information. And this means that you can, by the way, collect them and give them back easily. So just have folks go ahead and complete this. Great for first week of class, getting to know a little bit of information about a student. And I'll be coming back to this. But feature number 1 is that this is, of course, the Color Vowel chart. How many of you remember some older days when we had binder inserts? Anybody miss the binder inserts?
Yes.
Yeah, why do you miss the binder insert? This is, by the way, yeah.
They were rigid and just easy to hold with one hand and point with the other hand. And I'm talking about online teaching now.
Yeah.
And they were just durable and I always could find it.
Yeah. Well, they were printed, we did that really mindfully. They were printed on plastic. They had a weight to them. They did not tear, but they were also really expensive. They were expensive to produce and they were expensive to buy. And we found with all of the different kinds of settings to teachers who use our materials, especially adult ed, just don't have the funding. And they kept wanting more economical options. And so when it came to reprint with the 20th anniversary edition, we decided that we would just go out of stock on our plastic ones from the 4th and 3rd edition. So this is our way of making it available. And yes, it's on paper and yes, it'll tear, but it's also now recyclable. So that's maybe that's a feature of number 1 is it's a recyclable chart. Okay.
Karen, I have an anecdote. Do you remember, I don't know what big TESOL it was, maybe it was the Chicago one. We were at the booth and at the Color Vowel booth, and so many people just wanted to take a binder insert off with them. They thought it would be a perk. And we said, no, you have to pay, $10 or whatever it was for this. $10? No, I don't want any of your things. But now with the launch pad, you could reasonably
it's in plastic.
Hand them out.
That's right. We hand them out, we mark on them, but also we can wrap them up in plastic as a product. It's funny, our whole crisis of any convention is that people think that all of our materials are samples. And so, but that's another story for another time about our belief in kind of keeping things lean. and the funny irony of that. All right, so we have a chart here. It's a wonderful way not just to refer to it, but, and I hope, Robin, you will pitch in on this. We
Don't
found,
worry about it.
yeah, really, huh? So we found that while the teachers up here doing, you know, if you're doing yoga by sweeping down and showing how a sound behaves, or more likely sweeping up to show a moving vowel, students can do the same work here with their hands, putting their finger on a line and moving along with it. So for example, if we're trying to focus on the difference between red and gray, the learner can start right here at red, pepper, and come and they can really just monitor the movement of their jaw by moving it in time with their finger. This is so simple and yet so effective. And I've seen it, and I know, Dr. Barr, you're using that over at the Washington English Center.
Oh yeah, I had one student who had a really hard time getting the O, getting the movement of the O, because she wouldn't stay on the vowel long enough to move. And so, and it got embarrassing because she was trying to say the word folk, and it kept coming out as folk. And everybody in the class would crack up, and she didn't, you know, she got very offended. But if you actually make her keep saying it as she moved the finger, folk, yeah, then she eliminated the problem.
Yeah. Liz, I think you've also done some work with R, right? With some of your Japanese speakers?
Yeah, I don't have a story to tell.
Come
I have
on.
a story to tell about this? No, I don't. I mean,
well, I do recall a piece of video where, you know, first it was all oral, and then the moment he was able to do this, it made a big difference for him. Yeah. So if you've been if anyone's been apprehensive about all the, you know, it can feel kind of wild, the yoga, you know, with big arms, which it isn't, by the way. I mean, you know, take the workshop. It's a lot of fun, but it's just writ large when you have the chart back here, and your students can do this version right here. It is quite effective. So it's both for looking at and touching and tracing a sound, and all of your R controls and so forth. Any other contributions about just this part of the Launchpad, about what you do with it physically in the classroom or through online teaching?
I have a question about it.
Sure.
You know how you sometimes do, like Karen, you'll say, I can't think of an example, but like hat, right? And then you go, what color is that? Everybody goes, it's red. And then you go, okay, what if it was silver? And then they go, hit. And then you say, what if it was purple? And they say hurt. You know how you do that, like kind of a substitution drill? Do you ever do that with the chart, like just like saying hat, and then you put your finger on black, and then instead of saying what if it was silver, just like moving your finger to silver, and then have them substitute
just like that?
Yeah, and then they say hit, and then without saying anything, you just move to green. And then
I love that. I mean, you could do it with a penny too, you know, that way I try to keep my hands out of it because I move the paper so much. So we could do it like that. I could say, you know, now we have cat. So what word is this now? And I could call on Susan. What word is this now?
Coat.
Coat. And Joan, what word is it now?
Hurt.
I could do it this way so the student can still see the key word, right? Purple, Kurt. And Bill, what is it now?
It.
Oh, see, I love this. That's great. I like that, Liz.
White. Do white. I want to do white.
And what's this word, Liz?
Kite.
Very good.
Thank you.
Okay. And so then we could also, don't be afraid of going to the ones that aren't words, by the way. You could say, for example, you know, quoit, is that a word?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like it doesn't, who said it has to be a word? It's all about it, like
sound. Yeah.
Right.
It's phonemic awareness, right? It's
Yeah,
like,
I love it.
And
Yeah,
what's neat
nonsense
is
words
if,
is the backbone of phonemic awareness.
yeah, and if you try to eliminate or avoid the words that aren't words, you'll actually end up avoiding words that are words without realizing it. Like you could say in your head, you can say, oh, Kate's not a word. And so it's like, yeah, it is. It's a name. You're like, oh, yeah, it's a name. So, you might be thinking in one direction with your spelling in your head. And then I just go around innocently. Is this a word of English? Keat. And then, as you saw last week or 2 weeks ago, some of you saw the footage of my son. He could easily say, yeah, it's like parakeet. And then I'd say, yeah, like parakeet. You never know what the learner's going to be able to drum up. And it might not be exactly the word, but it's all about wordplay. So I love that.
Now,
Yeah.
just be really careful which consonants you select.
Yes, always the key piece there. Watch out. In general, F is not a good consonant to use in your frame, especially in the beginning. And there are a couple of others. I've ended up in a pickle with a couple of unexpected things.
2 cup of mustard.
So the word is cat, and now it is
Cut.
Cut.
cut, 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 caught, cat. See, that's also nice. I don't know, there's something very nice about sliding something on here. So
And
I'm
Auburn.
into that. Okay, Auburn. What word is it now? Caught.
Caught.
Good. We've got caught.
Oh.
Caught. Very good. We
Oh.
should do this all day. Good. I love this.
Pair, minimal pair there, Robin. Very good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love my minimal pair.
Fabulous. So I like the coin. I like how I no longer have to say, what if it's red? What if it's green? Though we know that with that game, we can use that without any visual reference whatsoever, like in the car. Take cat, make it silver. What is it now? Kit, right? Good. Any other tips or uses?
I just like the idea maybe the students can move the penny around,
Yeah. Yeah. We could also write on this. This is paper. So, this could be the place where we could do what color is your name here, because it's sort of a first time use of the chart. So that could be pretty exciting to write on it, or you may want to keep it pristine. Okay. All right. So that was just tip number 1. Let's see. Feature number 2. I'll call this 2 simple questions, 1 big idea, right down here at the bottom. Okay, so the 1 big idea, anyone want to take a stab at that? Once we realize that the 2 simple questions are, what 1 color is represented in all of these words? And here, let me go ahead and get a close up here. Let's see, that's not so good. All right, I'll try to read to you. Down here, what 1 color is represented in all of these words? This question can really throw students for a loop. It seems simple, but they can spend an entire, I would say 15, 20 minutes discussing these 5 words. And we've seen this in the piloting in Laura's class, where they will argue about, one or another being different from the rest, or all of them being different sounds. And so just to give them time to soak in their assumption that letters, different spelling patterns have different sounds, and then coming to realize that they're all the same. And these are all what color, everybody?
Red.
Pepper. Red. Red pepper. And so we've designed it to, again, be written on, and they ultimately get to this point. You don't tell them, they get to this point, right? And I'll just go in kind of close for a second. So they write red, red pepper friend. They can do red pepper said, red pepper anything to walk them through and to get used to what they're going to see on your board, which is references to a color like red in all caps, right? So that they know they were talking about red and not the color, say, of a friend who's wearing a red shirt or something like that. Okay.
I like the tactile reinforcement that you just showed us.
Thank you. We've also, with Laura's help, these are very watermarked lines that are underneath each letter. So a student can reinforce it right there and yet still be accurate in what they're supposed to underline.
Karen, I have an idea also a way to start this would be to ask them before that you even hand this out, how many ways can you think of to spell the red pepper sound?
Mm-hmm.
Or what words do you know with the red pepper sound? And
That's
then
right.
it would lead them to, oh, I can spell it a million ways.
That's right. Yeah, and that's a great follow-up too. So you can either do it before or after. This all by itself is its own kind of epiphany. It's the looking with the eyes aspect of it. And it's also great because some students may not have a lot of answers to that first question. But if the answers are sitting here right in front of them, what's fascinating is it says here, right here, it says in English, one vowel sound can be represented by different vowel letters. What one color? And so it tells you that it's one color. And yet they'll argue, this was a high intermediate class of Laura's that really were arguing with one another that, that this one is gray and this one is black and so forth. And yet she kept saying, read that sentence. And so then finally she had them close their eyes while she said the 5 words. And they finally came to an agreement that the same sound was featured in all 5. So it's a real battle of eyes and ears here.
Yeah, it's a real argument against being too text bound because
right.
It's the whole lack of one-to-one correspondence between the symbol and the sound.
Yeah,
that is the epiphany that they get.
Doug?
Yeah, I was going to say, except for the silver pen friend.
Aha. So this is, it depends on the teacher in the room and the part of the country you're in. And so know that, for Doug and for a few others, this may be a silver word for you.
So when that comes up, I mean, I know it's not wrong, but we're telling the students who are learning to speak English that it's a red word.
Yeah.
And so they are going to learn how to pronounce it with a red sound.
Yeah.
So I shouldn't really have this discussion with them unless they think it's a different color.
Well, if they think it's silver, then you can honor that and acknowledge it and say that's true. And you can say red is also a very common way to say it. So we're not going to exclude the other possible answer. But if they pronounce this with a red vowel, they'll be okay, right?
Yeah, they will. But I mean, it kind of distracts from when I say, okay, close your eyes.
Yeah. Well,
listen, they're all the same. No, they're never going to get that part.
Well, they may, because even among native speakers in the room here, if you recite these to us, in fact, we could do it. Go ahead and say these for us. Just say them in a row, Doug.
Best, friend, said, any, bread.
Good. Now, look at the gallery, and I want folks to see if, just honestly, did you hear one finger if you heard all red, and 2 fingers if you heard all red except on friend? So look at the room. What's interesting is many of us heard all red, Doug. Is that interesting? We can't hear you. You're muted.
That's your Broca area taking over.
And that's also yours.
You mean Pierre's place?
You
mean Pierre's place?
Yeah, Pierre's place.
Called Pierre's place now.
Oh, okay.
Doug, I also think that I say friend with a silver pen. For me, it's silver. So when you were saying it just now, I was waiting to hear silver pen because that's what I hear in myself. But from you, I heard red.
What do you do with any?
That's because he was flooding.
Yeah.
I don't have any. I don't have any.
Yeah, I do silver pen any.
Yeah. So the important piece here is your students, even with you pronouncing these 5 words, if I go back to my visual, don't anticipate a problem until it actually arises, and go through in the way that I'm suggesting, and you might be surprised. In fact, I think you will be, because we just showed ourselves that we're surprised, that
I just
we're
was
worried about something that not even native speakers are hearing as distinct.
I think part of it might be that he was saying the words in isolation and
Mhm.
very conscious of what he was trying to do, which is have them be the same. Whereas I think maybe in conversation, when you're not thinking about it, it comes out silver.
I'll actually disagree with that because I've done a
Okay.
number of these moments where if anyone who's been in basics with me lately, we've had these raise your hand moments where, you know, the very thing coming out of our mouth is much like the day years ago in Dr. Barr's classroom that I all of a sudden was producing Auburn and I didn't realize it. And everybody's like, you're producing Auburn. And it was such a strange realization
Yeah.
that what I think of as the same vowel as olive was coming out of my mouth in ways that other ears were hearing differently. And this is the converse of that, right? This is the case of Doug thinking that he's, or perceiving that he's saying two different vowel sounds and the rest of us are perceiving one. So that's fascinating.
And it's like
Oh.
Liz's tan man.
Right, right. So, you know, and my colleague Shirley, this happens all over the chart, by the way. So again, I would say go ahead and try going through things. Don't resist or worry. Try it. And when something comes up, we know we have some good answers for that. And we can acknowledge and include other perceptions that are possible. It's when you say friend and somebody says, I hear blue. Now you know you've got something to like
Yeah.
bump up against and say no, right?
Yeah, can I make a quick comment about that? As a trainer, I feel like in all the things that I've attended here too, it tends to come up where like we go down the rabbit hole and start discussing dialectal differences, and I just feel like native speakers are much more sensitive to that whole realm, and our students for the most part, it's not an issue. Like they're not splitting hairs. They don't need to split hairs.
Yeah.
And so I tend to just kind of go, okay, well, that's true. Let's keep going.
Yeah. In a
What I
way,
find interesting is that they will hear things that never occur to us, like the difference between the voiced and voiceless consonant at the end. So they'll hear a difference between bread and what was the one with the voice? I can't remember what you had there. Like
Beat and bead.
yeah, like that. They'll hear a difference between those two sounds, and that's not for only for any speaker of English is that phonemic.
yeah.
But for them, it is the length of the vowel.
I think what's interesting is when Shirley's entering the room. Yay, Shirley! I'll mention her. What's interesting about this community is what we do in basics and with the color vowel chart is we raise teacher phonological awareness to the point where you're saying, what about all this? And then we're saying, now put that aside because this isn't about you, and get a sort of a fresh, clean slate and start again with your learner. And then if they notice something, you have enough phonological awareness to address it appropriately.
Right.
So there's the first part of the course, the first 3 weeks is all about you. And then the second 3 weeks is all about the students and how to set your reset so that they get a fresh approach to the chart too.
Could I say that too? When I was like in Peru again, but the person I was with, Gabriela, it worked the other way, the phonological awareness. Because I would say things in Spanish and it's really funny. She's like, no, don't, she would start to be really aware of how I was saying it because I was grouping it together like English. There was this restaurant called El Pan de la Chola. And I was calling it like Panda Chola, kind of like that's what it sounded like. She's like, no, it's not a panda. I mean, it was really funny. I had no idea I was doing this.
and I think this is part of why we, like coming together is it's forever intriguing to be aware of how we speak.
It's been great for me because now I won't be so self-conscious about using the launch pad.
Thank you. No, and I'll go back. It's interesting, Doug, because I love hearing you say that. I mean, I appreciate hearing you say that. We all have, well, not all, but some of us have these sort of super awarenesses that we might sound different somewhere. And I want everyone to know right now that however you speak English is valid. The fact that we can all communicate makes it so, right? And years ago, I remember my first time I was teaching pronunciation before I before I went to University of Maryland, I was teaching from a book and I was anyway, it was very phoneme by phoneme based. And I was given the course because the guy next door in the next room was from the Bronx. And he said, well, I'm not allowed to teach pronunciation. And I can't mimic the way that he speaks, but his accent was gorgeous. It was like this great Bronx accent. But he truly believed that he really was not capable of teaching pronunciation because he wasn't a valid model. And I think that's, well, I disagree with that. And now I would have something to say to him. Shirley, I want to say hello. Welcome. We're so glad to have you.
Hi, Shirley.
Hi, everybody. Sorry I'm late. We went out for a walk and ran into a neighbor and went to a yard sale. And then I got back and I thought, oh my God, it's dark. It's after 5. So anyway,
well,
good to see everybody.
Yeah. And we're walking through the launch pad and we got into the whole thing about.
We've been talking about you, Shirley.
What were you saying about me?
Well, I was about to say how we spent years together with Shirley saying things like her bag of tools and her, where's my handbag and this kind of stuff. And then it was finally when we were actually coding the colors in a book that we were working on with Intercambio, where I came across what I thought was a typo with the word flag. And she had coded it as gray. And I said, oh, it's a mistake. And at that moment, it was like we'd been working together for a long time. And suddenly we realized that for Shirley, all these words are gray. Gray day, flag, gray day, bag.
Yeah, gray day, flag.
Can you say that for us, a flag?
Gray day, flag.
How many of you heard black? Raise your hand. Yeah. Now, and that's knowing that we were supposed to be hearing gray, right? So imagine without any of the color vowel kind of frame around it, we pass by each other every day in life hearing somebody who's using gray when we use red, or someone who's using auburn when we use olive. We just don't notice these things. So even more reason, Doug, you're great. You can do this. Okay. Fabulous. Well, gosh, we're now on, oh, here we go. Tip or feature number 3 of the Color Vowel Launchpad is, and I want to make it to 5 because 6 is a doozy. So the second part of the big idea is just in reverse, right? That we have one letter across 7 words and all of those O's make different sounds. And again, dialectically, you may be a teacher. There are instances of people who say woman for women, woman, something that's more like a homophone. So it's okay, but walk through it without worrying about complication, and there probably won't be. Okay, so that's those 2 pieces. What's neat about this, though, is that once they've labeled them, and we can do that now again. What color is 1? What color is 1?
Mustard.
Mustard. And so mustard. And you can check that the students are using all caps and they underline following. It's just like, it's nice. It's like those coloring books, right? What about woman?
Wooden hook.
Wooden hook.
Wooden, good.
Karen, why the all caps?
Good. So if the word were, if we had a word like the word, I don't know, if we have a word like, Canada, and, we do something like that, and then we say black, this could, if a student looks up after a bit, they could get into like, what are we talking about? And then they could think, are we talking about the flags, or are we talking about like the color of, what are we talking about?
Yeah, and if you're coding colors themselves,
Exactly.
like it can get confusing.
Right. So what color is yellow?
Yellow is red.
There we go. So we use all caps to have an easy way to signify we're talking about sounds and not colors.
The reason I bring it up is, and back to the dyslexia. So a lot of people with dyslexia, a lot of people with dyslexia have a more difficult time reading when everything is in all caps.
I see.
Yeah, but it's only a set number of words. I mean, I'm not saying that's not true, but
it may be negligible, but when I hear that, I have to ask.
Yeah,
right,
I don't even I actually don't have my students write it write the colors. We just pretty much do everything orally.
So,
But-
and reminding that Robin teaches profoundly dyslexic students, adult students. So she does all the writing for the most part of these kinds of things in the early, especially in the early years of intervention. But I agree with Liz that it's a set number of objects, and it's worth that codification because it keeps things from getting messy when they look at notes, which for them is difficult to decode. And again, give it a try. If you find that that's the confusion, we want to know that. Yeah, for sure.
I'm sure it would be a pretty small portion, but it's
Correct.
just worth making people
Yeah.
aware that that
Definitely.
can be an issue.
Definitely. All right, so then as we
I
move
would think
along,
too that if you found that really was a problem, you could come up with another clue, like circling it every time you're using it as the sound. But
mhm,
I would agree with Karen, try it with just this finite number. It might not be a problem.
right. You know, yeah, exactly. Okay, so now if we have it all marked up, what I love about the next feature of the chart is that after we've done this work, and again, each of these could easily be 2 different lessons, each of them 15, 20 minutes. I mean, it's amazing once you actually leave it to the students to grapple with the question with a kind of grit. This can really be robust instead of it being a didactic lesson of let me tell you what color these all are. So each time you teach with the Launchpad, you have that opportunity once and again to let go even more and let the students dig in.
I like the discovery process. It really is great when they come up with their own examples.
Yeah, yeah. And they have to visit this concept more than once, by the way. So when you use the Launchpad, say, again, mid-semester, or maybe you're using it every week as your main handout, you'll find, don't disregard, say, oh, we've already done this. Come back to it and see if they can, you know, dig in again and come up with more questions, okay? With these answers, what's neat about in the next feature is that when you move over to the other side, all of those words are already in the CVO. So this is their first color vowel organizer, their first CVO. And those O words are here, as are all of the red words. And so it's already there with a model of what to underline, how to underline, and you're on your way to having them fill in their first CVO and start using underline techniques that you're teaching them. Okay. Anyone want to add to that? What are some of the first words you put in here?
Their name. They already did their name at the top of the page on the other side.
Yeah.
Put that in too, and all the names of their classmates.
Sure. So we can do what color is your name right here. It's a wonderful opportunity. So we can take, you know, Susan's over here, and we can ask Susan where she stresses her name, start getting our hands out. Don't assume that you know, right? So then Susan shows us, even with her mute on, Susan, oh, we can see it. I can see the blue with her hand open. And we underline the part that's blue where her hand is open.
But I have them go back to the front and then do underline their name first, and then they can put and decide what color it is, and then they can put it in the chart.
Nice. I have it actually, I've done it the reverse where we do all the names here and then we turn it right back over. So we'll come into this, but then we come right back and now we can fill in Karen is the red word. So you can go in either order actually works. Okay. Well, what I like is the roundness of it. So we come in here, we can fill in with all the first names and last names if we want, or countries is a great one. Yeah. And so you can be filling this in all week with 5-minute touches of the back side here.
Where did you say you were from? Did it say Venezuela?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I spent my childhood there, so I like to choose that. Venezuela. I also like it because some people feel it's gray, but I feel it's red.
Yeah.
Yeah, Venezuela. So yeah, we can have countries and names. Any other thoughts about using that backside the first time?
Just like the places and local, like with my middle school kids, you know, it's like, are you from Kensington or Wheaton? Because they come from different areas.
Yeah.
Well, they'll put that down in there and you'll get a whole bunch of local area places.
Right, Wheaton, Kensington.
Yeah. So.
And those place names can be really difficult.
Yeah.
definitely. There are some places in Virginia that my students used to come from, and I can't even remember the name of it because it I learned it once in English, and all the other times he said it, I could never remember what he's talking about. But it's some difficult place names for sure.
A lot of my students have trouble pronouncing the name of where they live. And so if we decide, you know, Oxon Hill is a silver pin word, then suddenly it's more intelligible.
Yeah, and you can separate it out where oxen is down here, oxen, and then this could be Oxon Hill. So they have two places where they can practice and master the word and then the entire phrase. Right? Good.
Yeah.
So yeah, names, where we're
Good.
from, where we live. Anything else?
I've extended it just a little bit, like then have them name like their favorite place, you know, favorite restaurant or something. So from there, so, and then they can put that in the organizer on the back there. So
It's kind of like a big Our Color Vowel Lives kind of page, right?
Yeah.
We combine My Color Vowel Life into multiples. Okay.
I think it's important for students to be able to say their address too. I remember the first time I really realized that was I had a student, he was telling me he lived on Irvinga Street. And I thought, oh my God, if he ever called 911 and said, help, I need help. And he said, I live on Irvinga Street. So we worked on how to pronounce Irving Street.
Irving Street, and then we might, for DC, add the NW. How are they going to decode that, right? So then we have NW, and we could draw maybe a line, make it really functional. North, west, something like that.
Of course, when you're talking about DC, then you've got all the state names in there. So if you've just done the state name sorting, then you can have your own organizer for the state names.
That's right.
Because the avenues in DC are named after the states.
So this becomes the workhorse, as I often mention. This is the everyday tool. It's the organizer. We can go back to it. We can flood. We can ask more questions. We can add. Okay. A couple of neat things. Of course, now we have the images. That's nice. A nice little color image to reinforce. And it goes in the order of purple, shirt, So that's nice. Left to right scanning, where they end up, you know, on the image as a symbol of the sound. Brown, cow, ow. Then when you move over to your image cards, they're ready to go with the idea that that is the ow sound. Yeah. We've also modeled underlining. And this is just on the CVO that we've done this, not on the main chart. But it's a nice, you know, with those examples plus the answers to the previous page, we have lots of really good examples of different kinds of words and what we underline. And, you know, I hope, can anybody speak to the work they do to make sure students are doing the underlining correctly? Are you collecting papers and handing them back with corrections or fixing it in the moment? What can we hear from our participants?
Well, it's hard now that it's online, because I used to, you know, I used to be able to walk around and do spot checks, and which is really, and then you can always just mention it as a reminder. But so yeah, being online makes it a lot harder.
Well, I was going to say for me, being online makes it not easier, but I asked them to tell me, you know, I started using the online version of the organizer, and then, you know, I'll type it in and then go, okay, Hiroshi, which letter should I underline? And then he tells me, and then I say, okay, right, the, you know, the E. So everyone, or write it down, you know, and underline the E. So, you know, modeling it and asking them.
Yeah.
The first few times I use it, I model it with it under my document camera. So I'm actually doing it by hand, just like I want them to do. And that really, and then from there, then that gets, eventually we move over to doing it where I'm on the computer screen, but asking them, you know, reminding them, make sure you're underlining like we've done before. So.
Right. So, you know, there's this option, and this version is available in the digital lounge, just this easy to type into version. Also works with Excel spreadsheets. People can do all kinds of things, but we do provide one easy way to go digital on that. And I agree. I love, you know, just the actual underlining with our hands is a great idea, but sometimes it's more convenient. I pull up a PowerPoint slide and just do a big word and underline right there. So lots of ways to go about that, right? Good. Well, then our next, we're moving along nicely to have time for our fun thing from our chants class. Dun, dun, dun. Let's get out of that share and move into the next nice feature of our CVO. We still, by the way, we still have oh, come on, Taylor. Let's try that again. Showing the same thing multiple times. Okay, here we go. Aha. So we still have our dotted line between Auburn and Olive. So, you know, you can honor, if you like to be right over the line, you can write a word like caught just one time. That's fine, right? We can do all kinds of fun things like that, or just honor it and let people know if they ask a question that there's an answer. All right, let's move back over. So we've written all of our names here. We have Joan is in rose, and we've got Shirley in purple, and we've got Robin in olive, and so forth. And once we're full with these names, especially with the names, we're ready to turn right back over with the underlining. And I mean, I like sort of little sleeper features, right? So I start off very nonchalant. Let's just write our, go ahead and complete the top, please. You know, just like every kind of handout we've ever had. And so students fill it in dutifully. And then I love wrapping back around to the beginning of the lesson and saying, now let's go back into this first part and to mark it up with red. In my case, I can do my last name. Nice, tired, gray. Venezuela, we've already done it over on the other side, and I can mark it. And Spanish would be black. So that's a nice bit of closure for any lesson, just to know, I now know how this thing works. I know what these colors are. I know I'm going to see my teacher use these all caps, and I know how to do it, and we'll keep practicing. So that's kind of the original concept of this document. And I'd love a raise of hands. How many of you were involved in the early piloting and revision of this Launchpad? Remember, you were part of a tiny group. There were some of you. I know Liz was on that team. And yeah, I think Robin might have been. But Shirley and I and Laura, we worked closely. I think Jennifer was in there too. So we worked with people from the community who volunteered to do this, and they took it out and used it and came back with ideas. And so I mean, I really feel good providing something like this, a product that's been vetted and used and revised. I want to thank everyone who contributed there. But now, the big fun part. The big fun part came last night when I met with the Rhythm and Chants workshop group, and I gave them the Launchpad, and I said, what could we do with this in terms of a good chant? And anybody, not even, I mean, including people in that class, but anybody here can already think, what could we do with the name part of this as far as a chant goes? What comes to mind? Hi, my name is Karen. What's your name, right? Hi, my name is Karen. What's your name? And if I have my students all numbered in my Zoom room, and I'll just use 3 right now. I'll ask Suzanne, you can be 1. Joan, could you number yourself number 2? Now, could you be number 3? Just number yourselves. And that way we can just go right down the line. We can look in the gallery and see, you know, who is what number. And we don't have to stop and point. So it's something like this. Here we let's make a number 4. How about Bill? Could you be 4?
Sure.
Change your name, say 4, Bill. And I just like 5. So our 5th would be Shirley, because we need a purple name in there, right? Something like this. We keep a beat like that. Hi, my name is Karen. What's your name?
Hi, my name's Suzanne. What's your name?
Hi, my name is Joan. What's your name?
My name is Now. What's your name?
Hi, my name is Bill. What's your name?
Great. I'd like to thank Lynn Swanda for this one. She really got me all the way, the horse to the water, and then I was like, boom, here we are in Zoom with the numbers.
You didn't give Shirley a turn.
Oh, Shirley.
Aww.
Hi,
Go
my
ahead,
name
Cheryl.
is Shirley. What's your name?
Hi, my name is. Hi, my name is. Great. So we've got the hi, my name is chant. You know, it's something a lot of us have heard and we use a lot. Students really dig hearing that middle part, apart from the name, and realizing that they don't say, hi, my name is. That's neat. What else could we do though? And who's in the chance class right now? I know Suzanne is. Is anyone else in that class? Susan? Okay. So could each of you, do you remember from last night what one of the other chant ideas was from just the front side here?
I remember you did a last name chant when I was in chants a couple months ago.
We did. It's something like, anyone, do you
Goes,
remember?
my last name, like I would go, my last name's Booth, Blue Moon Booth. My last name's Booth. Then what do you say? What's your name or something to that
What's
effect?
yours? Yeah, there's a little, what's yours? There's a jazzy snap there. So we can,
or even just the, you know, the 2-syllable, 3-syllable, 1-syllable chant, you know, Robin, Jennifer, Liz.
ooh,
Robin, Jennifer, Liz. Robin, Jennifer, Robin, Jennifer.
yeah, we could do that, especially on the backside, right? We could grab, you know, especially if I have enough pennies, pennies and pens. I could take my, there's my Robin.
Don't empty your bank account, Karen.
So we got Jennifer over here, and we've got Liz. I only work in pennies. That's the I'm a martyr. Okay, so we have fun things here. We got Liz, we've got Jennifer, and we've got Robin. So we got Rob and Jennifer, Liz. Rob and Jennifer, Liz. Rob and Jennifer, Rob and Jennifer, Rob and Jennifer, Liz. I love it. Good. Next chant. What else do we do?
I remember one day, I forget why you were substituting for me, but the next day all my students were singing that chant back to me, and I couldn't believe it. It was just kangaroo kazoo, kangaroo kazoo, and they still do it. This is 2 years later. They still do kangaroo kazoo. And
I subbed for Robin, and we ended up with these objects. And it's true, we got really excited about how kangaroo and kazoo behave. That was great. Some things are really sticky, aren't they?
Yeah, but yeah, they sure are. But that was both kangaroo and kazoo were Blue Moon, although there was iambic reversal for kangaroo kazoo, but you know,
right.
Kangaroo kazoo. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're kangaroo kazoo. So it was a black version of it, right? Kangaroo, kangaroo, kangaroo kazoo. There was another neat chant here. We could do something like this. We could take our Venezuela or whatever country is here. And let's see, I know I asked Susan, do you remember what we did last night? Was there something here that you can pull out?
There was something, it was something like what Liz did with the 2-3 kind of thing.
Yeah, okay. Good. We could take, yeah, we could take country names like that, right? There's another one, Suzanne.
You're asking a brain dead person to
I'm sorry to put you on the spot too. Well, let me remind you the things you all thought of. Down here at the bottom, somebody came up with a really nice chant, noticing, and we did this on purpose, 5 words that do really contribute to a sentence, right? My best friend said, do you have any bread? My best friend said, do you have any bread? Do you have any bread? Do you have any bread? I don't know. My best friend said, do you have any bread? You know. Good. So there's a sentence right there.
I also like my best friend said, my best friend said, my best friend said, do you have any bread?
Yeah. So if I were Carolyn Graham, you could give a whole workshop just doing this 20 different ways.
Yeah.
She's a master of that. Right. Same thing down here. If we take a look at the bottom, why are we interested in all these chants, by the way?
Sticky.
Oh, it builds fluency. I mean, it builds, you know, they can say it smoothly.
Yeah.
It's like that way around into the brain. Yeah.
Yeah. And is that part of the dance class after you studied the steps where they finally turn on the music and you get to do it? You know, that's the fun part.
I've also talked to my students about chants in the context of how you reduce words. You reduce the words to stay on the beat. So when we start talking about schwas and word reduction and why the words, when we learn the words separately, we might say it different in a sentence. So I use a chant for that.
Yeah, especially
because so many students think that a reduced pronunciation is incorrect.
Yeah.
Yeah. and
Floppy.
we have to
Actually,
tell
yeah,
I've heard
I-
teachers say that.
yeah, I had from so many teachers in Peru. They said the one thing I don't understand, I hear the vowels or whatever. I don't understand schwa. Why schwa? And I was like, wow. I was really like stumped when I went there first.
Yeah, and I mean, with something like this, if you just have these words on the page and you teach them the rest, it's sort of almost its own proof that these are the reduced pieces, right? You give them the 5 and they can make up the sentence. And those other parts are the filler or function words, right? My best, my best. Do you have any bread? Do you have, or whatever the sentence might be. I know that the one that Suzanne gave us was a little different. But no, I think it was the same. My best friend said, do you have any bread? Right. So whether it's a fast one with a lot of reduction or a slower one with less, it's such a neat frame right there. 1, 2, 2, let's say 1 woman, 2 women, go, stop, wow. 1 woman, 2 women, go, stop, wow. I don't know, that was already a chant. I was thinking last night when I was talking with the group, just sometimes it's nice for students to have a ready to go example of a concept that they need to visit time and again. So while these words don't make a sentence, knowing those 7 words is a nice, there's my 7th, is a nice kind of just, I don't know, resource in your toolkit, but it does have also these phrases. So 1 woman, 1 woman, 1 woman, 1 woman. There, help me out. 2 women. We have go and stop, and we have wow. Yeah.
One woman show.
A 1 woman show. Great. 2 women go.
2 women go to the one woman show.
Oh, nice. Great. So we can do all
Lovely,
kinds of
lovely.
fun, creative things there. Yeah. Stop. Wow. Okay, something like that. So that was a 6th. And so a lot packed into here. And so basically this is, when you get the Launchpad, you've got several lessons already printed up on this one object waiting to be delivered. Other ideas? We're at the top of the hour.
I have a question.
Yeah.
For a lower intermediate level group, how long before they're familiar enough with the color vowels to, like right now, I just break it down and I give them 2 or 3. And so I make my word list with just 2 or 3 color vowels. How long till, and I know it will depend on the group, but how long till they're familiar enough to be able to hear a word and look at this and go, I can break it down to maybe 2 or 3 myself.
I find right away with I've done it with, very low level, and, within a week they're picking up on them, right? I mean, if you think about even the most basic sentence phrases they have to say, how many different vowel colors there are. Hello, my name is, will, please, thank you, hello, goodbye. I mean, you've covered almost every single color. So
I guess the question I would ask Suzanne is what problem are you anticipating and avoiding by starting off with 3?
Overwhelm.
Okay.
Of them just understanding the concept, you mean, right, Suzanne?
I mean, I know that as I gradually integrated color vowels this term, and we just finished it, if I gave them too many choices, I would get nothing back from them. Mm-hmm. But if I, just gave them 2 or 3 choices, then they had a 50-50 chance of really being able to hear it. Yeah. But even then, I had some students who almost never got it right.
Well, it'll depend on their native language too.
These were all Spanish speakers.
Yeah, so if you were doing olive versus black, for example,
yeah,
that's going to be very difficult for them, or green versus silver. But if you have silver versus black, then the that will be easy. But I start out with the 5 so-called short vowels, because that's what we do for the beginning reading. And but then when I need it, I just add another one, so they get, so they can recognize all the vowels. And I do it simultaneously with yoga. So I use the the hand positions, which I really miss, because I can't do that very well on Zoom.
One other thought I'd like to share there, though, is it sounds like one way of doing it is asking them, what color is teacher, and then we want them to be right or be close. So we, what color is teacher? And good, you're right, it's green. And then you might, have a Post-it, something like this. And this
I don't
matches
usually do it that way. I say, okay, let's try it. Green T teacher, silver pin teacher.
Right.
Feel your mouth. What it is? Is your mouth doing the same thing or not? Or that's usually where I go, instead of naming right or wrong.
Yeah.
But I let them
But
argue.
there's also the other direction to go, which is just letting them know. And this is the part that doesn't overwhelm. Letting them know every word that you want to say has a place on the chart. What word would you like to put on the chart? And I'll show you where it goes. So that's the opposite direction of, instead of they have to listen and figure it out, we want to do both, right? We want to go both directions. And there's probably 3 or 4 directions to go on this. We have speech, and we have listening, and we have perception production. But with this, we can say, if they say, I really want to know, where does Kensington fit? Because that's the word of where I live and I have trouble saying it. It's almost like, it's a little bit like, when you go to women, when you go to some store and everyone takes care of you, give me your word, I'll take care of it. So here's Kensington, the word that you cared so much about. And let's figure it out together where it goes. So now you see how it's really switched over to the word they care about. And now, regardless of where it goes, we'll find its place. And we can test it out too. Kensington, Kensington. Everyone raise your hand. Do you think it's Kensington or Kensington? Kensington or Kensington? And we can do perceptual kind of preferences, or which one sounds right. And then you find its home too. And
what I like about this is that it's just the opposite of what we've been doing in the reading class, which is all these words with other vowels than the 5 legal short vowels are taboo. And so we can't talk about that vowel yet, or we can't, it all has to be red, black, silver, olive, or mustard. And those are the only ones that we're allowed to talk about. And yet there are all these other words that they want to use in their stories or whatever. And that's why I like having the chart available to let them put things on the wall, on the word wall, that are words that are important to them.
Yeah, it's the ultimate parking lot. And so you don't need to, you can avoid overwhelm when it comes to perceptual tasks, and yet still represent all of the colors here. Shirley, I know you probably have some thoughts on this too, because we've worked for years with teachers asking a similar question.
I think that the way that I like to do it is to initially teach maybe three colors that are very far apart, but then introduce all the colors so that they're, as Robin was saying, they're available for whatever words come up. And it's not, and I think that too often we jump into, I'm going to say a word and you tell me what color it is. And that's like the hardest thing probably, especially initially. So I would say, save that for down the line. Don't make them feel like it's always going to be a quiz. Say, is this green or is it blue? And it's going to be pretty obvious. Or let's see if we can hear this. And if they don't hear it right away, tell them what it is. It's not, and don't turn it into a right or wrong. It's a quiz every time. I think it's a tool to help them learn. And it's some of them, there's certain sounds that they're, you could be working with them for 6 months and they still may not be able to hear them.
Yeah.
but they know that the sound is there, and they know that it's different from the one next to it, and they know how it fits in with the yoga. So they'll get there eventually, ideally. But
Yeah, that's exactly right, Shirley, because now they have a category to put the word in lexically, even if they can't distinguish the sound yet auditorily. They have a way they have a way of thinking about it so that when they can distinguish the sound, they've already got the two separate categories.
That's right.
yeah,
Well, I'll close with just the story that yesterday I had the pleasure of working with a group of high school students online, and it was their first time being introduced to the color vowel chart. And all I knew in my moment was I had to be sure that they all understood the concept that green and T both feature common vowel sound E, and that we will put other words here when they also have the E sound. And that it took, Jennifer, was it like 10 solid minutes of just dancing around this? I mean, I felt like I had one person on board and then they weren't quite sure. And then finally all the little coins went into their little places, or I don't know, those little.
I mean, you could see, I mean, there are only 5 students, but you could see and hear when they got it. I mean, it was so obvious, but one was just really, she was fighting against the word, the written word. And so it took a while, but if I could just add to what we were saying to Suzanne's question, is it's about, and this is what Karen did with this group, it's giving them all the different techniques for isolating that sound or for identifying that sound, throwing it and catching it, and using your finger or the yoga to figure out what your mouth is doing, and trying on different sounds. All of those, that's what I spend that first week doing, is giving them all these techniques to give them the power of the chart. And
Yeah.
so that's what Karen did with these students. So.
Well, I want to thank everybody for just all the contributions and the questions today. This is the week before Thanksgiving. We will not be meeting a week from today. I want you to enjoy whatever you end up doing on Thanksgiving. And we'll come back in December for Ask the Linguist. Dr. Barr will be here to answer questions, and we'll be coming up with a fun plan, some kind of rapid fire.
What is it? The tag team thing again? That was wild. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be doing something like that. So do think about any questions that keep coming up. I notice, and I want to thank Doug for raising again, I think we've been talking about Silver Pin for 1.5 years together, right?
At least.
And it takes, it's proof that it takes time for some concepts and some awarenesses to, it took me 20 years to get
How many years did it take me to convince you about Auburn Dog there, Karen?
Yeah. So, many 15, 12 years for me to have the coin drop on Auburn Dog for me. And now, strangely, I use it very consciously, like a
So Karen, can I get in one more question?
Sure.
When we do this chant where we're talking about what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? What color is gonna?
Audience?
See, I look at it and I say, okay, we've unstressed it. So if it's unstressed, does it have a color?
Well, if I were doing it, I might start with, if you want to do the reduced gonna, what are we gonna do? You might do a slow, what are we gonna do? And then, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? Those are 2 different rhythms. And one, I think the first one is the easier to access. And the second one is more challenging. But if your hand goes out on it, it has a color. What are we gonna do? And gonna is now a mustard word.
Although it could be a wooden hook word, if depending on where you're from, gonna.
Oh, okay. What are we
it could
gonna
be
do?
Auburn Dog, gonna, depending
Okay.
on where you're from.
There you go. Good. So you're going to mark those. Anytime your hand opens, you can give it an image. And then if
Sure,
we,
but I'm closing my hand on gonna. What are we gonna do?
oh, I
What are
see.
we
Well,
gonna do? Because the reason it comes up is because I was looking at it thinking, okay, all the words that we have that we assign color to are function words, not structure words. We haven't really talked about assigning colors to
Content words, you mean?
content words.
yeah. Well,
We
gonna
haven't,
is still,
talked about the and of and prepositions, and we don't really talk about those in the context of a color vowel chart or a color vowel organizer.
yeah. Well, they do belong in here. I mean, this is where the function words often fall, is with the and the of a cup of mustard. So you can think of yourself as coming back to the center. And maybe if the hand, I'll go back to the hand in a minute, but if you're like, what are we gonna do? That's a nice alternate to what you're doing with hand this way. What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? Now you've got what, do, right? And so we can just pull out those two colors. If you want to say, what are we gonna do? We could
If
do
I
it with
pull it
three.
out, I can color it. If I
Mhm.
don't pull it out, then I'm not sure what to do with it. I mean, we can talk about this next time. I just wanted to
Yeah, but I think
kind
you
of bring
basically you
that
don't
up.
color it, or you put it in the middle, right here in mustard. You can call it mustard, you know, and
Yeah,
pull
but we
out.
don't have a color for schwa.
Well, we do. It's right here. That's it. It's
Uh,
right there in the
A
mustard.
cup of
Yeah. So
mustard.
the
Yeah.
and the of are schwa. And that's why
Yeah.
we have 4 words here instead of just 2, which is the rest of the chart. It's kind of it's got special tools in its pockets, right? So there's the schwa, and you can just bring it right back into the center, because that's what where we are in the mouth. What are we?
So in a chant, it would be every unstressed word is a schwa.
Yeah, not every
Not
unstressed. They might be
necessarily, but
clear.
close.
They might
Yeah.
be clear.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Okay,
you
I
don't
mean,
need
I-
to color code
that's-
every syllable. You only need to color code unstressed words that might be
Mhm.
causing a problem. Like if they're schwa, if they're using schwa when it should be clear.
Mhm.
Like if they're saying happa instead of happy, then you say, oh, that last syllable is actually kind of green. You have to use green, you know, something like that.
For my students, it goes the other way. They want to say the and a instead of the and
Yeah, wonderful. Good, great question. I think we should have a session on chants. You know, it'll be a great kind of coming together in December, maybe second week of December, Jennifer, to add chants. I think she left the room, so I will remember. Note to self. Chants after the 4th, which is when Dr. Barr will do Ask a Linguist. We'll come back on chants, and our chants group will be wrapping up too. Okay. Interesting. Okay, we will call it a day. I want to wish you all a very happy Thanksgiving. Be
I'm
well,
grateful
and
for
we will.
this group.
I'm grateful for you too. Have a great week. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.